views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Welcome to Urban Community Action News, where you can witness those who are making positive change in our community through their actions. My name is Keith Mitchell, and today I will be interviewing Nelson Memorial Garden Funeral Home, Reverend Victor Nelson, who is also the president and CEO of Nelson Memorial Gardens Funeral Home here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm going to go ahead and start out by allowing Mr. Nelson to tell the audience a little bit about himself.
All right. I'm a Fort Wayne native. Like I said, my family moved here originally from Florida. I was the firstborn out of my family that once they moved here. I'm the fourth of five brothers. Eddie and Betty Nelson are my parents. But I, like I said earlier, lived here my entire life until leaving for the military. I did 2 tours during the Gulf War campaign. An additional 3 years. I did a total of 5 years in the military and Army, and eventually moved back to Fort Wayne. Worked in a local manufacturing company, and then when the early signs of what seemed to be a recession at the time in the mid to late 90s, I decided to go back to school for mortuary science, which brought me back here to what was actually previously the Mashaw Funeral Home.
Okay, wow, that's some journey. And I noticed you mentioned the Gulf War, so you're fairly young in this industry. So how long have you been in the mortuary business?
I've been it's nearly 14 years that I've been working as a licensed funeral director here in Indiana. And I did my internship as well as worked as the chief embalmer in Lafayette, Indiana for one of the local funeral homes, family-owned and independently owned funeral homes in Lafayette. For several years before there again moving back to Fort Wayne.
Right. Okay, so and I also, you mentioned that you were in the military, you were injured and you were honorably discharged. And at what point, I guess, did you decide that you wanted to go into this field? Was this something prior to the military or after?
It was afterwards. I mean, I've always had that, with my birthday being on Halloween, maybe that had something to do with it. Right. But I think that maybe in the back of my mind, like I said, when I was in high school, I had one of my friends that I grew up with. He was actually our football quarterback when I was in high school, and he actually worked at the morgue here locally, and I think that kind of planted the seed for it originally. And it was always one of those things where you begin to get curious. But after the military, I came here, I worked at a local manufacturing company, and at the time, like a lot of factories, basically, at that time, they were thinking about either selling, relocating, or completely going out of business, and a lot of my co-workers and fortunately for me, I didn't have to go through it, but there were layoffs and rehires, and we kind of went, did that up and down thing with that for a while. And getting into mortuary science, the thing that kind of pushed me over into it completely was a friend of mine was actually in school for mortuary science, and at that time I didn't know that there was a course for mortuary science. And we began talking and just kind of playing catch up after several years of not seeing each other after high school. And he was telling me about some of the things that he was doing for his classes, and and I, it kind of gave me that put a little bit more fire underneath me. And by the end of our conversation, because at the time I was actually attending Taylor University on Rudelso here for pastoral ministry, and because of that, he was basically saying, hey, we could do this thing together. Once I finish school and you finish school at Taylor, we could get back together. I could do all the embalming and do all the other, behind the scenes work if you want to handle the business and maybe even do the eulogies for the service. And I took, like I said, after that seed was planted, I probably took about 6 to 8 months of, debating of whether this is something I really wanted to do. And,
Right.
the situation at my job at, actually I worked at Lincoln Food Service for, like I said, a number of years.
Okay.
And that situation wasn't getting better. So I started looking into different schools. I started talking to some of the other local funeral directors and funeral homes. They were most helpful.
Right.
And like I said, after that 6 or 8 month period, I contacted the mortuary school that I went to, which is Mid-America College
Okay.
in Jeffersonville.
Okay.
And they, responded to my outreach to them, and they invited me to an open house. I drove down and talked to a lot of the professors and instructors. And after that, I was pretty much sold.
Right. Well, that's interesting. And what I really find interesting is you make it sound so simple. And one of the things we like to bring out in the community are those who, even though it may sound simple, we know from some of the social, economic, political challenges that we have in our community that it's not always that easy. But you sound like someone who you had a plan, and for whatever reason, the source of motivation, and I'd like you to tell us about that, because now, from what I understand, you grew up here in the Fort Wayne area,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So me knowing and growing up in the Fort Wayne area, I know of some of those challenges.
Right.
And so what did you do to overcome those challenges to make you be able to walk step by step to realize your dream and your goals?
Well, I say my biggest motivations would probably be my parents. My mother, she worked at, originally it was called Pines of America, which later became Power Wheels and Mattel.
Right.
She worked there for several years until she became ill. Basically, she had a stroke in my high school years, but she still, watching her recover from that
Right.
was motivation for me to see her not give up, and today she still walks and does everything, some people who've gone through that situation with a stroke, haven't been able to recover from that.
Right.
Secondly, like I said, my father, he worked at International Harvester, when I was young, my pre-teen years, and they eventually did the same thing as the manufacturing company that I worked for. They International Harvester moved, and I watched him go through the transition of. He was actually, let me step back. He was actually offered a position to relocate with International Harvester,
Okay.
and then he turned him down. And from that point, he began trucking, and then he eventually later on, bought his own truck, and then
Okay.
from that, he actually went on to start his own bus service or charter service.
Oh, okay.
So I think throughout my entire life, I've just seen not only my parents, but I've seen positive things from people who have always been motivated to do their own thing.
Absolutely, right. Well, that's good, especially coming from within your immediate household, your family. That's always good. And I see we have something in common. Likewise, well, my mom, she worked for Harvester as well, and she did go ahead and take the job where I think the one place that I do know was Ohio when she relocated.
Right.
And one of the things, matter of fact, that community, the South Side, which is one of the communities we like to focus on, once Harvester left, when I say that there are challenges, when Harvester left, a lot of the businesses out there left. And so another thing that we like to emphasize is there's a need for people such as yourself, and it's good to know, how do you overcome some of these challenges when you're not sure what you want to do, and like you said, you were injured in the military, so you made the choice to come home, and you still had to make a decision. But I'm sure there were still challenges there, and so that's one of the things we like to show on Urban Community Action News is those who have taken positive actions and overcome these challenges. So you saying that your father was one inspiration. What are some of the other things in terms of, like, when I think of young people today, a lot of times they're challenged with not having the resources. So did you ever encounter any of those challenges on your way?
I did, and I'd say one of them was just, like I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of local funeral homes here that, when I started my quest, to get information for, what actually was entailed in funeral service or mortuary science. So, trying to find out what the curriculum was. And there were some that just basically shut their doors on me. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm not helping, luckily we had internet and things like that. But there again, I speak about the people that I knew growing up. You would, when we were young, or when I was young, you'd hear names like Liz Dobbinus, Mike Joyner Sr., who was one of the first judges here, black judges, African American judges here, people like that, that I took notice of early. So there are challenges that I had to deal with, but I never let that deter me from whatever my dream was. I knew early on that I wanted to do something more than just go to a job. You know what I mean? I wanted more than just to collect a paycheck. And so what I do now, I see it, as a ministry, not only as a ministry, but as a way to help people in a way, at their, really at the worst time in their lives.
That's a good point. That's something that we definitely want you to talk about, how you're contributing to the lives of others, as well as now you're providing jobs for the community.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you can, go ahead and elaborate on that for us, Mr. Nelson.
Well, like I said, when I first opened, I opened in April 1st of 2009, and at that time we had a staff of 12, not including myself, of course, but we had a staff of 12, and just to kind of go a little bit deeper on that, a lot of people that worked here were a lot of the people that had just been laid off from Lincoln National and some of the other local businesses and even manufacturing companies and nursing homes and what have you. And we were all in the same boat when we started. So we were all basically starting over, starting from scratch. And it was easy to help in that sense because we were actually helping each other. I was trying to get started. Like I said, I had worked in funeral services for a while, but I hadn't actually ran a company, such as a funeral home, 100% on my own. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a learning process, and we, like I said, we really came together at that time as a family and helped each other out. So that, I attribute a lot of the success that I'm beginning to see now from that beginning, with the other people that came to work with me.
Right. And so now I know you said you started with 12. So are you still at the 12?
We actually have 5 employees now besides myself. We did downsize, because sometimes you take on a little bit more than you can chew, and it was a lot of that was because some of those people that, like I said, we initially helped to maintain employment and things like that during that period. They actually either got other jobs, or decided, there's some people that were maybe a little bit older that, decided they were ready to retire and things like that. And so they moved on, which, that's one of the things that I try to promote here, not besides funeral services, but not just working a job. You know what I mean? Find whatever your niche is, find something that you love to do, and make it work for you as opposed to you working for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the thing that is impressive is that, like you mentioned, that there are other funeral homes in the area, and from my experience, I know that you're probably one of the younger funeral
owners. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. And you're probably one of the younger ones in the area, and so are there any challenges there, or?
It's kind of a double-edged sword at times. The positive side is that, like I said earlier, I am a native of Fort Wayne, so I have a lot of personal relationships here. I know, I've been here for 40 plus years, and a lot of times the funeral home seems like, during the summer months, that is, it seems more like a community center as opposed to just a funeral home. We try to create an environment here that when you come in, it's not so much a funeral house, but just as we speak, a funeral home. And our motto is, Nelson Memorial Gardens Incorporated, this is where family is all that matters. And that's what it is. It's the family environment, because I've had relationships for 30 and 40 years. So when people come, hey, some people come and sit for hours just to sit and talk and catch up because I hadn't seen some in so many years.
Right. Okay. Well, man, that's really good. Now, like I said, with what we want to accomplish, and you're definitely a good example of the positive actions taking place in our community. We are a news show that want to emphasize on those positive actions. And the way that we do it, I keep mentioning challenges, is because we want to let people know that no matter what the challenge is, if there's a need, that once you're focused, like you said, and you're determined, that there are resources out there that you can successfully accomplish what it is that you want to do. Now, you did mention your friend that you started with over at Taylor. Now, is he still in the industry, or?
He actually is. He's actually an employee at Goodrich now.
Okay.
He decided after he finished school at Mid-America College, the same college I went to, that it was a little bit more than he could handle.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. He decided to, go with another career choice, which is fine. And one of the things that I did, just to kind of elaborate on that thought, I have in the beginning, and I still have a few students that come through, and we had a program that we started called the Protege Outreach Program.
Oh, okay.
And what it was to do was young people from the age of 17 to 25,
Right.
we would basically have them come in, and we would do workshops where they would have they'd have to write down three career choices that they would like, that they were interested in. Then they have to break down why they like those career choices,
Right.
what the benefits of those career choices are, and then who in that area or field could you contact, or could we contact for them,
Right.
to actually sit down and have one-on-ones with them, have them do kind of a job shadow one day or whatever, if they if it's available. Try to let them see more than just like I said earlier, going to a job, punch the clock. We like
Right.
to let them know there's other options out there. Just like in the beginning, I didn't know that mortuary science was a choice.
Right.
Of school. I thought it was just one of those things where, hey, I was born into this family, so it just kind of trickles down.
Right.
My daddy was a funeral director.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
So
right.
never knew it was a course. So that's what I try to do. I try to enlighten and let them know, hey, it's a lot of choices out there, but you have to do your part
Right.
in order to find those.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really good. Now, is that program, is it currently going on?
We actually we had stopped it for a while because, like I said, we were doing some rebuilding and trying to, like I said, refurbish the building and trying to work on some other things. But we are in the process of trying to restart that program
Okay.
so that we can actually have that available for
Now,
the community again.
okay, and one of the things that I often find out, in particular in some of the more challenged areas of our community, when you have programs such as that they have challenges in and of themselves,
Right.
and we often talk about the kids who don't, but then we don't always hear the stories about the programs that lack the resources. Now, were there any challenges in there, such as resources, finances, or anything as far as running that program?
Well, finance is always a challenge.
Right.
But I mean, not really, because, like I said, it was all hands-on here at the funeral home. You know what I mean? It was, the most that we had to do was basically find the time to do the things that we needed to do. And like I said, there again, being from Fort Wayne, knowing people, growing up around, in this community, and growing up around people that are now police officers, firemen,
Right.
Some are councilmen, whatever.
Right.
Being able to reach out to them, I think, is one of the advantages of me. Even with my age, that's what I was kind of getting at earlier. Even with my age, being probably the youngest funeral home
Right.
owner in this area, that's one of the advantages that I have
Right,
because
right.
because of the relationships I've had, growing up.
Right. Yeah, and Fort Wayne it is one of those cities that most of the people, they know one another, or you know someone's family. And again, with you being young, there's another thing that has happened in Fort Wayne. I think there's been a decline by some of the things that they've incorporated in the law enforcement here in Fort Wayne, but there was a high level of homicides.
Right.
And that certainly is a part of this industry.
Right.
How did that affect you?
Well, personally, there's two ways it affected me. Personally, it affected me because, unfortunately, a lot of the homicides that took place were, they involved, some of them involved the kids of friends of mine.
Right,
and that's one of the setbacks. Like I said, being from here and then doing this type of job, it's a double-edged sword. as far as the other ways that it affected me, it more or less, it allowed me to reach out to the community a little bit more
Right.
in a way of saying, hey, you know what? I know that that's not the order that things are supposed to go in. You know,
Right.
we're not supposed to our kids are not supposed to pass away before us.
Absolutely.
So being able to console some of the people that I know, and then letting them know that, you know, it's not always just about money.
Right.
It's sometimes it's about the counseling. It's about the camaraderie of friends and family. Again,
right.
you know, being able to say, hey, you know what? We'll worry about the financial aspects of it when it's time to worry about that. But right now, let's take care of you.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? And that's kind of where I am with the majority of the services I am. Yeah, of course, it is a business, so
Right,
we definitely want to get, you know, paid for our services.
Right.
But at the same time, with the homicides, I probably took care of about 70% of the ones that
Wow.
that took place probably in the last 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that was something that touched all of us, like you said,
Right.
with this being city where most of the people have grown up with one another. And I mean, if you go back 40 years, 50 years,
Right.
60 years, the history of Fort Wayne, you'll find that most people are familiar with one another. And so that, and thank God that, like I said, it's declined.
Right.
I think the numbers are down here. And certainly, well, this is, and I say this with a little humor, that this is a door that we all have to go through. But like you said, we don't want to be burying our children. And so, and I thank God again that those things have changed. But let me ask you, Mr. Nelson, what are some of the things that you think, as a result of those challenges within our community, that we can offer to children, such as a program you mentioned? You said that you guys are going to try and start that back up. What are some of the other things that you think we can do to make a difference in our community that's outside of what you're doing, but you want to tell the community? And again, because you've been successful, we want you to inspire and encourage other people to reach out, like you said in your program, and find that niche. So what are some of the things?
I think the most important thing, first of all, I'd say education. You know, trying to educate our young people to say, hey, you know what? If you start on this path of you know, a brighter future in education, stay on that path.
Right.
But we have to stay with them until they make it. You know, we can't say, okay, now you're doing good. You know, go ahead. You're on your own now.
Right,
we have to
right.
keep, you know, encouraging them. But along with that, I think that we have to highlight some of the ones, you know, all of them,
Right.
not just the ones that are here,
Right.
but the ones that are trying to make it. Because a lot of times, and I tell families this a lot, or I should say more so, friends of mine who've gone through divorce, who may have kids that are estranged or what have you.
Right.
A lot of times the kids are affected because a loss is a loss, whether it's through death or if it's because of divorce, or
Right.
if it's because of an absent parent. And I won't say father or mother, but either or. You know, a loss is loss.
Right.
And when a child gets to a certain age, they realize that loss.
Right.
And whether it's, and that's why I say it doesn't matter whether it's a death that caused the loss. If you are absent, if you're not there,
Right.
then you can't be an influence, whether negative or positive.
Right.
And more times than not, if you're not there and you're not encouraging your kids first,
Right. Peer pressure
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and other things will encourage them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I definitely, even in this show, one of the things we want to encourage is networking together as a community through unity to make our community stronger. And even when there isn't a parent, it's just like the program. And I'm really interested in the program. I want to talk to you about that some more.
Okay.
Because those are the type of things that we want to point out in terms of making our community stronger. Again, the concept here is to show the positive actions that are taking place in our community to do that. And we know for a long time we've kind of delegated those responsibilities to things outside of our community, but the concept that we have is that we can do those things internally by raising up as a light or a beacon of light of those who have succeeded, and allow that light to lead others in their thinking, in their decision making. But it doesn't just stop there, and so that's why it's important, like you said, for people such as yourself to reach back And that program, that's an awesome thing. I'm going to let you go ahead, and is there anything that you want to say that while we're here that, how can I say it, that you think can reach someone today? I mean, is whatever you want to say, go ahead and say it. That's what we're here for.
Okay. I guess, and like I said, my mainstay on everything is education. And just to kind of put it out there, when I first started in funeral services, my goal, which I haven't reached yet, I'm still trying to work towards it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't think that, you know, in my wildest dreams when I first started mortuary school that I would have accomplished owning my own business this soon.
Right.
But my actual goal when I first stepped into the class, I planned to come back to Fort Wayne. I'd always planned to come back to Fort Wayne to work in mortuary science, but my goal was to introduce mortuary science to younger people because I didn't know that it existed.
Right.
I thought that I could introduce it to them as another way, and that was kind of the catalyst for the protege outreach program.
Right.
And so I think the main thing is that if we, as a community, begin to re-educate ourselves and then begin to relay that information and educate our youth, then I don't think it's nothing that we can't do. I think we're unstoppable.
Right. Amen to that. I almost went to church. That's a true statement, and it is. It's supported biblically. It's supported by the experiences that we've had in life. If we just look at it, those things that we focus on and believe in, you know, we just want to focus that into positive energy. And another thing I wanted to say before we go here is the fact that when you, I told you that I wanted to interview you,
Mm-hmm.
and we both looked forward to this interview.
Right.
And one of the things is a lot of times when we have shows, well, with me, this being, I think this is we're just several shows under our belt right now.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we definitely want to cover are those things that when our viewers are listening to us, that we want to inspire them, we want to encourage them. Not only are we doing something, but we want to invite them in to work with us. So is there any information that you can give to our viewers as far as getting in contact with you about the youth program or your services? Again, I will mention we are with Nelson Memorial Gardens Funeral Home with Reverend Nelson. But is there anything else that I may have missed out on?
Absolutely. And like Mr. Mitchell said, we will soon, and I'll get the information out as soon as I'm able to. We will re-implement the protege outreach program here at the funeral home services that we provide. We're always here for any type of counseling. You know, if just having a bad day, you're more than welcome to come in. Like I said, this a lot of times it's more like a community center than a funeral home.
Okay.
But the other services that we offer pre-arrangement, pre-planning workshops, grief counseling, at-need services, more or less anything that you need. Cremation services, anything that we can assist in that way. But as I tell people all the time, if there's anything that we can do, within reason, of course, that we can do to help within the community, community action programs, such as this program, to inspire and encourage other people. We're more than willing to assist and help to do that.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, where is the church location? Where is that?
The funeral home.
Yes, the funeral home.
We're located here at 1338 Eliza Street, here in Fort Wayne, obviously. We actually operate out of what was formerly the Mashaw Funeral Home. Just to give a quick insight, I know we don't have much time left, Keith, but Mashaw Funeral Home was ran by Josie Mashaw for several years after her husband, Ellis Mashaw, had passed away back in the 50s, but she ran it from that point forward. And I just wanted to point out the fact that at that time, there were only 2 African-American women that were self-employed or owners or business owners, and that was Josie L. Mashaw of Mashaw Funeral Home here at 1338 Eliza Street, and Madam C.J. Walker in Indianapolis. So there were only two. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's
and
really
those
good
are the things that encourage me. So.
Right, and this is a historical location.
Absolutely.
For that very reason. I know. Well, our viewers can't see from here, but right outside the street is the McCulloch Center,
right.
Which that's a landmark. And so, like I said, my parents grew up. Well, my mom, she grew up right over on the next street over, and so yeah, this is a historic location. You do have a few minutes. I guess we have a couple more minutes here. Okay. I'm just excited about the fact that we're offered the opportunity to reach out to our community, and then, like, when I invited you on, you came ready and you want to encourage people, and that's a really good thing. So I definitely want to commend you on that in front of our audience, that you were someone who came forward and said anything that you can do, you would do to inspire the community. And again, we want to emphasize that people who are doing positive things, taking positive actions to make our community a better community, are the people who we want to highlight here. And so today, we want to thank you for coming, Mr. Nelson.
Appreciate it.
And we definitely support you on anything that you're doing positive in the community, and we congratulate you for those things that you've already done. And also, I did mention you had a couple more minutes, so is there anything else you want to say? If not, we will begin to close here. But
not much. Just like I said, if there's anything that we can do here, we're more than willing to. If you are interested in the programs, we have several other programs that I didn't get a chance to mention. We have programs that our senior citizen programs, where we actually take 1 or 2 days out of the month, or whatever is available for volunteers.
You have a website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the website is Nelson Memorial Gardens NelsonMemorialGardens.com, www.nelsonmemorialgardens.com.
Okay.
And all these things, like I say, we've implemented. We've done them for years. And what I was saying about the senior citizen program, we take volunteers to the nursing homes to try to visit some of the residents who don't either haven't had family members come and visit them, and things like that, to just keep them uplifted as well.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Keith Mitchell. I'm with Urban Community Action News, and today our guest was Reverend Victor Nelson, who happens to also be a friend. I grew up, his brother played basketball with me here locally, so I don't want to make it look too formal. This is somewhat an informal interview. As well as formal, but at the same time, we hope to have him back in the future on the program. Can you mention that program again?
The Protege Outreach Program, and then our Senior Citizens Program.
Okay. And so thank you again,
I
Mr.
appreciate
Nelson.
it. Yes, sir.
And